It's Radio Scanner Month here on Ringway Manchester, and whilst I've been promoting the use of radio scanners over the years and showing you the cool things you can pick up with them, I've said many times that it's technically illegal. It's illegal to listen to anything not intended for you, and that's always been the case. See the other episodes in the description below for details on this. I've been telling you stories of people found on the street, in their cars, or at home by police whilst listening to radio scanners. Most of them ended up in court, receiving anything from a slap on the wrist to substantial jail time and conditional discharges. Nearly all of them had their scanners destroyed. While most of those stories involved the police lifting eavesdroppers by chance, there have been a handful of instances over the years where the police have snared people by transmitting false or far-fetched reports over the radio in order to catch those who turn up to take a nosy. Now, this is perhaps even more of a grey area than the whole listening law, because is it not technically entrapment? The definition of entrapment is the action of tricking someone into committing a crime in order to secure their prosecution. The reasoning behind these incidents is that the police were growing increasingly fed up during the early half of the 1990s of criminals using the scanners to stay ahead of them. On more and more occasions, police were turning up to incidents and finding the scene littered with eavesdroppers, and even worse, turning up to carry out important operations only to have been foiled by criminals. More and more instances of people being caught carrying out burglaries, going equipped with screwdrivers, crowbars and radio scanners came to light during these years. Car thieves were apprehended with radio scanners, drug dealers were found with them. The police did take some big steps to combat this later in the 1990s, which we'll come to in a future episode, but for now, let's look at these bogus stings designed to catch the eavesdroppers. Of course, the problem with these stories is that these police operations perhaps targeted the wrong type of scanner user, and not the career criminals that were really benefiting from them. This first story involves a man who was spotted at the scene of an accident with a scanner, but the rest are about stings set up by the police. A man was found guilty after trial of scanning police radio frequencies at Selkirk Sheriff Court in March 1994. Michael Stewart, 31, denied using a radio scanner on September 17, 1993. The court heard in evidence how the radio was capable of picking up 200 channels, but could be purchased at high street shops. Police had received a 999 call and attended at Bemerside, where the accused was one of numerous sightseers at the scene. The officer's attention was drawn to him by what resembled a police radio attached to his belt. Stewart's solicitor claimed there was no case to answer, as the essence of the charge is that the equipment was being used, but his submission was repelled. Sheriff James Patterson found Stewart guilty and fined him £100. The Radio Society of Great Britain's monthly Radcom reported in July 1993 that Warrington police, frustrated by radio scanner operators passing on their messages to third parties, transmitted spoof messages concerning UFO landings near their town. One of them spoke of a UFO landing at the old Stretton airfield, once operated by the Royal Navy. When the scanner operators turned up at the supposed landing site, they were promptly arrested for contravention of the Wireless Telegraphy Act. The outcome of these cases is unknown publicly. If anyone has a May, June or July 1993 copy of Radcom, then I'd love to see the individual story. Snoopers tuning into police radio messages raced to a wood in the winter of 1993 after hearing reports that a flying saucer had crash-landed in a secluded spot near Doncaster, but the broadcast was a spoof by police to trap the eavesdroppers. 6 men were arrested when they turned up to view the little green men. They later faced hefty fines. Officers reported that a flying saucer had landed at Kersley Lane, Doncaster, and then waited to see if anybody had taken the bait. Operation Marconi, as it was dubbed, was aimed at catching people monitoring police radio transmissions using radio scanners. In a similar operation, a spoof message was broadcast stating that a couple of bags of cash had been found in local woods, and large sums of it were blowing around. Waiting officers were astonished when a car arrived at the scene within 2 minutes. A search uncovered a scanner tuned to the police radio frequencies. The flying saucer operation proved equally successful, and several people were charged according to a South Yorkshire police magazine. Again, the outcomes of these cases is unknown. If anybody has more information, then let us know. Local police used all their crime-busting skills to crack what was described as an eavesdropping ring operation. They deliberately transmitted bogus information on their police radios that strange lights were spotted at Butt's Brow, and then nabbed 24 people who turned up at the deserted downland spot above Eastbourne in October 1996. One scanner which picked up police transmissions was confiscated, and all 24 people, mainly teenagers but one, an older CB enthusiast, were questioned and had all their vehicles searched before being allowed to go. Sergeant Kevin Wallace said the undercover sting was prompted after their own operations were scuppered by eavesdroppers using radio scanners. He said they were mounting operations, and the targets were obviously aware of what we were doing, because they would have disappeared by the time we got there. It's quite a serious offence to even listen to police transmissions under the Wireless Telegraphy Act 1949, Sergeant Wallace said. Although only one scanner was actually confiscated, an expensive mistake as they ranged anywhere between £250 and £500, according to police, officers suspect many were left at home. Police nabbed people illegally listening into their radio messages by staging another flying saucer sighting in September 1997. Officers shone brightly coloured lights above the hills of Bexhill, Sussex, and then put out a hoax message over the radio about reported UFO sightings. Police scanners turned up by the carload, but instead of seeing aliens, they were met by officers who quizzed them about how they'd heard of the UFO. Inspector Martin Stevens said it was a bizarre operation, but was very effective. Just quite how effective it was remains unknown, as the outcome was never published. And finally, a story from September 1996 that follows a similar theme, people acting on what they hear on the radio scanner. Staff at Greater Manchester Ambulance Service had to be issued with new distinctive uniforms in a bid to beat bogus paramedics. This followed a series of incidents in 1995 where cruel hoaxers turned up at accident scenes, endangering the lives of victims. Wearing fake uniforms of black trousers and the familiar fluorescent jackets worn by genuine ambulance staff, they'd arrive after picking up details of emergencies on radio scanners. From then, the ambulance service in the area wore blue jackets, specially designed to foil hoaxers. Markings indicated whether the wearer was a paramedic were sealed into the material. And that wraps up this instalment of the police using hoax radio messages to snare eavesdroppers. If you're aware of any more, or how these stories turned out, then let us know in the comments. If you were one of the people involved by some remote chance, then comment below. And also, is this entrapment? I think it is, but I'm no expert in the law. Let us know below.